Hello, and welcome to another episode of Copper Bottomed. I'm speaking to you now in the second week of April, and I haven't done a Copper Bottomed episode since, I think, the third week of February, just before PDAC. A lot has happened in the copper market. My name is Merlin Johnson, in case you hadn't got that already, and I've been pretty busy running Fitzroy Minerals, which is exploring for copper and gold in Chile and Argentina, and that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So March was a write-off for me in terms of doing these videos, but I've been looking at the copper market. I've been looking at the news that's been coming out, and there's plenty going on. Now, the most obvious thing is that the copper price has popped. We're up at $4.31 earlier this morning. Obviously, that's accompanied or following a very strong gold price, $2,350 something dollars per ounce. It's a pretty exciting time for the precious and base metals. But I also wanted to just put things in context and really just kind of put some flesh on the bones of the idea that we need higher prices for longer going forwards. So $4.31 per pound, over $9,000 per ton, is as good, it's a good start, but I don't think that this is an incentive price for new copper development. Copper prices probably need to be $15,000 per ton, possibly even as high as $20,000 a ton. You're talking $8 to $10 a pound, so much, much higher copper prices than what we're looking at the moment. And just to put that in, provide some background to that, obviously the demand picture is strong. We've been running at 3% demand for copper for decades now, and then you put on top of that anything to do with electrification, the internet, the energy transition, any aspect of renewable technology or kind of high-tech technology, AI, all of that is increasingly copper intensive to the background trend that we've been living with for decades. So the demand side is very robust, but let's have a quick look at the supply side, because this is really, really crucial. This table here that you can see is a snapshot of the 20 largest mines in the world. Escondida is here, 1.3 million tons of copper being produced at Escondida. This was 2023 data. Now, I've ranked them in the these 20 biggest mines of the world currently by the year that they started. And I've also had a look at who built them, either who owns them now if they're ancient, or who actually built them if they're more recent. And what you can see is that some of these biggest mines, you've got El Teniente, Bingham, Chuqui, Buena Vista, the Norilsk Polar Division, Morenci in the States, and all of these guys are pre-World War II, so before 1937. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Yes, there were expansions later on. Then you come through to Cerro Verde in Peru. The mine got going in the 70s. It was expanded later. And then really there's a big gap. And then these are just the 20 biggest mines. So it's not representative of the industry as a whole, but it's quite an interesting proxy. Then you look at this kind of golden period of mine building. You've got about 20 years here between 1990 and 2009. Now, I've also put in here the US interest rates since 1954. So if you look at from 1990 to 2010, we're in this period of historic low interest rates, really. I mean, yes, there was a period in the 1990s when it was up at 6%. And again, 2007, 2008, when they were trying to cool down the super hot global economy. But effectively, compared to the previous 30 or 25 years, these are lower interest rates. Now, what does that mean? It means the cost of capital is lower. So there's an incentive, or the money that's required to build these giant mines is less expensive. And what you can see in this 20-year period here, all of the development is by Western companies. So you've got BHP, Rio, Freeport, Xstrata, Anglo, Antofagasta, BHP, Glencore, First Quantum, Anglo American, Freeport again, and Lundin Mining. I mean, this is all Western money, and it's all in a period of relatively low cost capital. Then, and actually, when you think how long these things take to build, so the money pretty much started coming through 10 years before, because these dates here are the mine starts. So the money was being spent in the 2 or 3 years prior to that. So kind of from the late 80s through to the mid 2000s. Interesting. Then you look at this period of, again, super historically uncharted territory of these zero interest rates, or kind of de minimis interest rates for the next 15 years to where we are today, 2024. Post the financial crisis. And despite all of that cheap money, look at the 5 mines, the 5 big mines that we've got here. 3 of them are basically run or being developed by China Inc. Las Bambas is a consortium of Chinese companies. Kamoa, yes, it's an Ivanhoe discovery, but when Zijin bought in, they basically gave the equity share of the build money to Ivanhoe. They bought in for $412 million, and it was a 65% project finance, 35% equity. Zijin paid their bit. Ivanhoe paid their way, but effectively it was Chinese money. And the DRC was carried. And Toromocho in Peru was the first wholly Chinese build of a major mine. We've got 2 other exceptions in there. One is Cobre Panama by First Quantum, which was Western money built by a Western company, and unfortunately it's ended in this kind of disaster of the political situation and the closure of the mine. And Anglo-American with the Quellaveco. So these 2 guys were kind of bucking the trend, and it shows, what it highlights is, despite the historic low interest rates, so money, the cost of capital for these major companies is as low as it has ever been. Despite that, they haven't been able to bring new copper projects into production because the return hasn't been there. And that's a function of depth and grade and the difficulty of finding these things. So supply constrained, bullish copper. Let's go and have a look at the explorers. During the course of March, there have been 4 weekly summaries put out. Actually, there was one on the 30th of March as well, but I just couldn't do that. I'll address that next time. But let's have a look at these from the 2nd, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd of March. A whole bunch of companies coming through. I haven't got time to do all of them, so I've just put the ones I'm going to talk about in bold. Entree Resources is their first time I'd heard of this company. W Gold. They've got the Lyle deposit, and they've got this whole issue about, is it a gold deposit? Is it a copper deposit? I've got unhappy with the way that they deal with their copper equivalents, so we're not doing that. McEwen Mining, that's the first time on. T2, more drilling. Abitibi, it's their first time I've come across them. They've got 2 news releases, and there's an interesting twist on this. Tribeca was a low-grade tail end of a drilling program. Entree Metals was a minnow. Gladiator Metals, good drill results. I wanted to go and have a look at that one. 14 meters at almost 3%. I thought that was worth having a look at. Lion One Metals is a gold company. Faraday Copper put out some incremental drilling, which I didn't think warranted diving in deep. First Tellurium, another minnow. 2 interesting companies came out this week, the 16th of March. Pampa Metals, they put out a couple of news releases, and Emerita puts out some more drilling from their project in southern Spain. And then the 23rd of March, there was another company I'd never heard of, Metals Acquisition. It was their first time that I come across them. There was incremental drilling from Arizona Sonoran, which I won't cover because that's quite a well-known story. And Amex Exploration, which is a gold company. So I won't cover that. So straight into it. Entree Resources. What a company. Look at that. $300 million market capitalization. When I took this, I did a snapshot of this chart about a week ago, and the share price was $1.51. It's now at $1.57. The market cap's just kind of inched higher. Look at that price chart. I mean, that is a good company. Okay, now I'd never heard of it before. I know this slide has got a lot of writing on it. However, it is worth looking at a few of these things. Entree Resources announced partial drill results for Hugo North extension and provides an update on underground development work. Hugo North, okay, so we're talking Oyu Tolgoi, one of the biggest mines in the world. Rio Tinto has spent so much money on this. They have poured money into the block caves, and it's been a right old shaggy dog story. But the block caves are now working. They're coming into the second lift. Some of the drawdown belts might not have worked, but they're into the harvest period, and they're learning. So maybe now this is a really interesting time to look at the Oyu Tolgoi deposit and look at these drill results. 274 meters at 2.8% copper equivalent. Okay, 300 meters at 3.5% copper equivalent. I mean, and I don't care that it's a copper equivalent because this is an operating mine. Right. The CEO, Stephen Scott, says, "We are very pleased with these drill results from Hugo North Extension." Ooh, gone the wrong way. Which are the first holes drilled into the deposit since 2011. There's a lot of data in here. I went and had a look at the presentation, and I thought it was one of the best presentations I've seen in years. I recommend that you pull down the presentation and you just read through it. It's beautifully laid out. It's a very, very sensible story. Obviously, for $300 million, there's got to be some warts on this, and they've got because look, they've got a 20 or 30% carried participating interest in Oyu Tolgoi joint venture, depending on the depth of mineralization. Horizon Copper Corp and Rio Tinto are major shareholders of Entree, holding 24 and 16% of the shares of the company, respectively. Now, when you go to the outlook and strategy of their most recent report, it's got this huge section on arbitration. I haven't got time to go into it now, but they're fighting over percentages of ownership and how the joint venture partnership is going to be structured. And the results of this are going to be hugely material to the company, but it feels as if, to a degree, a lot of this arbitration risk is in the price. I would expect it to be so. So I'm not going to go into it now. Stunning drill results, stunning share price chart, the best company I've never heard of. That 20 or 30% interest in the joint venture is hugely valuable. The block caves are going to deliver value and revenue at low cost over decades long timeline. They've got a carried participating interest, so they're not on the hook for the capital development of the next lifts. This looks really interesting. Go and look at the presentation. It's really good presentation. And if I was in an investing mood into copper, I would want to look at Entree Resources quite closely. And I'm going to ask Matt to see if I can get the CEO to come on to Crux. I'd like to learn more about it. There we go. A corker to get started with. Now, another interesting one, McEwen Mining Inc. $780 million Canadian. So what's that? Kind of $600 million US. They put out these kind of quite a sensational news release, 446.63% copper, including 76 meters at 0.92. And then look at that number, AZ23228 met. And all of these drill holes they've got this kind of suffix met at the end of it, which means that they were metallurgical test work. They don't mention it in this news release, which I think is really telling because it makes me suspicious. They say the objective of the drilling was to collect information needed as the project advances. We're not idiots. Tell it how it is. Don't kind of mollycoddle. We're not in the Victorian era. You can tell us something. You don't have to mince around. And they also talk about it. They're looking to they're seeking funding to support feasibility level engineering and pre-construction work. And then they talk about the crucial thing is that because you do met test work really when you're doing infill work or when you're de-risking your project. So these results, as great as they are, they're presented like new news, but in fact they're within the resource. So subtle difference. It's good data. this looks like a valuable project. It is in Argentina, which means it's going to trade at a discount. Although Milei is doing a great job in Argentina. And then McEwen is a well-funded private company which owns the large Los Azules copper project, but McEwen is only 48% owned by McEwen Mining. So when you buy McEwen Mining, you are basically buying a bunch of small gold mines with a copper project stuck on the side. And if you go to the presentation on the company website, they put almost all of the value in this Los Azules copper project, and they draw parallels. They say, look at the value of Lundin, Filo del Sol. They look at the value of NGX, and this is comparable. So it's a very interesting kind of hobbledy. It's a strange mix. Now, I pulled this chart off last week, and look at that share price there. From last week, it was 11.96, and today it's 15.74. And that shows you what's happened with the gold price. So this has kicked up to here now. And that's really because McEwen Mining is a gold mining company with a copper development project or an exploration project on the side. So interesting. I wanted a slightly different approach from the news release, calling things metallurgical, knowing that they're metallurgical holds, but not talking about it is a bit strange. There we go. Next, T2 Metals. It's a minnow, got a market capitalization of $10 million. They put this out a few weeks back, 23 meters at 7 grams gold, and you got their share price response in there. So from whatever that is, 15 cents to 30 cents, more or less. No cross section. Mark's a good guy. It's a sensible exploration program. They're looking for high grade stuff in this belt. It's quite hard to see, but this is the hole, this green hole right down at the bottom, which has got this 1%, 24 meters at 1% copper and 7 grams gold. So good. And now I have highlighted that it's this VHMS, volcanic hosted massive sulfide style of mineralization in complexly folded host rocks. So it's a low market cap. They've got some really good grade. They've got lots of good stuff to go on through here, but it's complex. So it's going to take careful work, which I'm sure the team at T2 will be able to do. So keep an eye on this one. It's an interesting one. Right. Gladiator Metals, news release from the 5th of March. So over a month ago now. I was really struck by that. 37 meters at 13.75% copper. It's a minnow, market capitalization of $16 million. It barely trades. So it's picked up a bit of liquidity in 2023 to 24. The website feels a bit clunky, a bit parochial. The news release was also a bit clunky and a bit parochial, but maybe this is a maturation process of the company. I'd like to speak to the CEO of Gladiator, get them to come on to Crux and explain it. It's a skarn. And they've got a good trend here. These purple, where is it? These purple anomalies down here. I don't think that's the geochemistry. I think that is. Oh no, sorry. These signals in here, these pinkish blushes, are geophysical indicators. Go through there and through here. This is an old open pit, and they did 3 drill pads with kind of fans of holes of each of them, and they got some good stuff. 14 meters at almost 3% copper and a bit of gold, 1.4 grams gold. These are good grades. What I will say is that it's a skarn, and skarns have got really tricky mineralogy normally. Jason Bontempo, the CEO, says, we've got initial assays from an ongoing 10,000 meter drill program. They confirm and support widths of high-grade copper skarn mineralization that we knew that was there from the historical data set at Middle Chief, and they point to further extensions of the defined mineralized bodies. I would say, great, go for it. Mineralization remains open in all directions, with some holes finishing in high-grade copper-gold mineralization. Good. The gold assays coincident with high-grade copper mineralization point to the significant upside potential of this area, with the historic drilling only assaying for copper. So I like this. I think they can tighten up on their presentation, but good start. Really good work. Go get them. Right. Okay, now this is an interesting one. I mean, extraordinary that all of these companies are out there, and I'm such an ignoramus. These are new things to me. Pampa Metals, never heard of it. $14 million market capitalization. The share price today is 26 cents. The share price a week ago when I did this, pull the chart down, was 25 cents. So it hasn't budged. I said that there were a couple of news releases from Pampa Metals, but when I went to their news section of their website, there's news on the 27th of March, 26th of March, the 18th, the 11th, February the 22nd, and February the 6th. And they announced a fully subscribed private placement. I think they've now raised $2 million. But look at this. They hit early February. We hit thick supergene copper enrichment blanket. Late February, intersects wide interval of copper mineralization. 11th of March, 304 meters at 1% copper and 132 meters at 1.45 from the first drill hole. I mean, the Pukenes porphyry project. March the 18th, so this is a week later, 422 meters at 1% copper, including 132 at 1.45. Or maybe that's just repeat there. Yeah, that's repeated. That's from the first hole. But I mean, and then again, wide interval of copper mineralization with bornite-rich core in the second drill hole. So they've only got a couple of holes in, but blimey, this looks good. And then you look at what's it about. It's a copper gold exploration company. They've got into an option and joint venture agreement for the acquisition of an 80% interest in the Pukenes copper gold porphyry project in San Juan province, Argentina. So San Juan province is a good province in Argentina. I don't know what the terms of the acquisition are, but at this market capitalization, if you're looking for copper and you're finding it, and you can get your head around Argentina risk, which is a whole different kettle of fish, and I'm in the process of doing it because we've got the Taca Trend project in Argentina, then this is interesting. Right, AbraSilver Metals Corp, another busy bee. They put out lots of news releases. This is a screenshot from their website. Market capitalization, $56 million. And they've obviously had this huge run up from 10 cents to 50 cents. Great news release. I wanted to find out more. There's no cross section in it. I thought I'd go look at the presentation, and then I get hit in the face by a request for email. And I just thought, oh, why are you putting up an obstacle to me finding out information about your company? So if you're listening, anybody from AbraSilver Metals, I'd love it if you could just give free access to people who are interested in your project. Do come and talk to Crux. It looks quite interesting. They recently bought it, or the option agreement from the 16th of November, but that was a turn-off. So I moved on. Meeting, but here we are. Emerita Resources. When did this go out? On the 11th of March, so about a month ago. Emerita Resources market capitalization still close to $100 million, but it's obviously had this difficult run where it hasn't really moved for getting on for a year now. And the share price is kind of a fraction of what it was, kind of close to a tenth of what it was. This share price hasn't moved in the last week. So this was the graph I took a snapshot of a week ago, and the price today is actually 1 cent lower. So it hasn't reacted to the metal prices moving, which is interesting. But 70 meters at 0.7% copper and 0.9 grams gold is a really good result. So I thought, wow, let's have a look at that. So the company has announced there's additional assay results from the ongoing drilling program at La Romanera, part of the wholly owned Iberian Belt West project. It's got 3 previously identified massive sulfide deposits, Infanta, Romanera, and Cura, and these results are from Romanera. Okay, so assay results have been received for Diamond Drill Hole 167, Figure 1. The hole was one of a pair designed to better define a zone of high grade and copper enrichment evident in grade contouring of the deposit. So it's not true exploration because it was kind of within an envelope of mineralization already, but still it's a good result. And this is the hole down here. Look, you can see it's this is a long section. So in the news release, I do like to see cross sections because you can understand whether these things actually, if you put them here, they look as if they're all lining up, but if you actually look at them, they might not be. So cross sections are really important. And then there's a a relatively long quote about this. So Joaquin Marino, the PGO, he's the president. He says, wada, 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 lots of geology speak. And I'm a geologist and I like this stuff, but is this the right thing to be doing on the front page of your news release? Because what this basically says here is it talks about metal zonation, it talks vents and lead and zinc and distal and plunge, distribution of stockwork intervals, gross architecture. What they're looking to do is assist with designing the exploration strategy. Yeah? So this, what they're really still trying to do here is they're still trying to find the key. They're still looking. So it was an interesting news release in the sense that what it tells me is that this is difficult. This news release comes with a really good copper grade, really good gold grade for 70 meters, but the message from their president is, "Oh, we're finding this really hard." And then David Gower, the CEO, says, "We're also developing a plan to evaluate numerous geophysical and geochemical targets within the broader IBW property," which means that they're still looking for something which is going to make it kind of work, because so far it feels from the tone of the language and the look of the share price graph that this doesn't work yet. So interesting. I mean, it's exploration is not easy. You've got to just keep going. And so I'm wishing, go explorers, onwards and upwards. Right. The last company looking at today is called the Metals Acquisition Limited. Dreadful name. I never heard of it before. And I looked at it and it was like, oh my goodness, it's almost $1 billion company, 900 million US. And look at that share price chart. It's just kind of on tiny volume. It's just rip-roaring away. And I think to myself, what on earth is going on? And then I see these results, 19.2 meters at 10% copper, 16 meters at 10% copper, 3 meters at 14% copper. And I think, wow, what am I missing? It's interesting. It's really interesting. So the Metals Acquisition bought this copper mine. I can't remember what it's called. It's the CSA copper mine. And that's what it's called. It's called Copper Mine in Australia. They've got a resource and a reserve. But they've got some new results which are outside of this. Sorry, the 2023 resource and reserve estimate is scheduled to be released in Q2, so any minute now. So keep your eyes peeled for this. But these are additional exploration holes. So from QTS North, 14 meters at 8%, from QTS Central, 11 meters at 12, 7 meters at 11. What I also found is that from 114 meters in hole this, and 25.6 meters at 6% copper from 152 meters in this hole, and 14.5 meters at 9% copper from 146 meters in this hole. But then I thought, oh, wow, this is all quite shallow. And then I went to the long section, which is this bad boy, and look at the shape of it. Here we go. Here's the surface at 10,200 meters relative level and a bit, 2,000 or whatever that is, 80, 70. And there's the 10,000 meter level, and this is the 9,000 meter level. So this is a kilometer here, and this is another kilometer down to 8,000. So this is 2 kilometers deep. So I realized actually, then you look at where these holes are being drilled off, these are downhole intercepts. They are not from the surface intercepts. So this is underground drilling, which is fine, but you're looking at a kilometer of haulage to get up to the top, or 2 kilometers if you're down here. And it's an old mine. And for $1 billion asset, I thought, wow, this has better be some pretty charming operational results for this, because this looks hard work. So I love the grade, but it's down at 2 kilometers below the surface. Yikes. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. 1.5 kilometers below the surface. So I question whether this is going to keep going in the direction that it's going, because it's got momentum. I'll tell you what is interesting is that all of the companies I've looked at, I did the share price graphs a week ago, And all of the big companies have really put on they've accelerated. Their value has grown. They put on a lot of value in just a very, very short space of time. So I think this metal price up here on this graph is $11 something, and here we are at 13.5. They've added on $100 million worth of value, and that's because of liquidity. If I just flick up through these, Emerita, no change in the week. Abitibi, no change in the week. All of these small companies, $14 million, no change in the week. Gladiator, no change. T2, no change in the week. McEwen Mining, gold company, boom. It's up to, this was 11.96, and the market cap a week ago, liquid, bigger company, it's added $150 million worth of value. So the first responders are the bigger market cap companies, and Emerita, 151, it's only $300 million, but it's gone from 151 to 157. Really, really steady progress. So for me, that's interesting. So the juniors stay junior, but eventually really good metal, really good exploration results will cause a change. The first responders are the more liquid companies, perhaps as you would expect. Good. I hope you've enjoyed this week. Thank you very much for listening, and see you again soon.